The last thing I remember was the squeal of tires, a sharp, ear-splitting sound that ripped through the quiet, snow-laden Vermont night. I was on my way back from a signing in Burlington, a small but enthusiastic crowd who loved my No Man for Me series. I smiled, remembering a young woman dressed as Eve, my protagonist, complete with the oversized glasses and perpetually flustered expression. It was flattering, rewarding even, until now. Now all I feel is searing pain. My leg screams in protest with every throb of my heart. I open my eyes, or rather, try to. The world is a fuzzy blur of white and shadow. My head throbs, a dull, persistent ache behind my eyes. I'm lying on my back, staring at a low, wood-beamed ceiling. Dust motes dance in the faint light filtering through what looks like a boarded-up window. Where am I? Panic claws at my throat. I try to sit up, but a sharp pain shoots up my leg, making me gasp. I look down. My left leg is twisted at an unnatural angle, pinned beneath a heavy wooden beam. Hello? I croak, my voice raspy and weak. Is anyone there? Help! Silence. Only the rhythmic creaking of the old house answers me. I try again, louder this time, my voice cracking with fear. Help me, please! After what feels like an eternity, I hear footsteps, heavy, deliberate steps approaching from another room. The sound fills me with a mix of relief and dread. A figure emerges into the dim light, silhouetted against the doorway. He's tall, broad-shouldered, with a thick beard that obscures most of his face. He's wearing a flannel shirt and jeans, the quintessential Vermont lumberjack look. But something about his eyes sends a shiver down my spine. They gleam with an unnerving intensity. "You're awake," he says, his voice surprisingly soft, almost gentle. I was so worried. "Who are you?" I ask, my voice trembling. "Where am I? What happened?" He takes a step closer, and I can see his face more clearly. He's younger than I initially thought, maybe late 20s, early 30s. His face is pale, almost gaunt. "My name is Ethan," he says, his eyes never leaving mine. "And you're safe now, Julie Ann. You're safe with me." Safe? My leg is broken. I'm trapped in a strange house, and I'm being held captive by a man who looks like he hasn't slept in days. Safe is the last word that comes to mind. "The accident," I stammer. "My car. What happened?" "The snow was bad," he says, his voice still unnervingly calm. "You went off the road. I found you. I brought you here." "I need to go to a hospital," I say, the panic rising again. "My leg." Ethan's eyes harden. "No hospitals. They don't understand. They wouldn't take care of you properly. I will. I'll take care of everything." He kneels beside me, his hand hovering over my injured leg. I recoil instinctively. "Don't worry," he says, his voice soothing. "I'm going to fix you, Julie Ann. I'm going to make you all better, just like Eve." Evening. The name hangs in the air, heavy with unspoken meaning. My heart pounds in my chest. He knows about Eve. He knows about my books. This isn't just a random act of kindness. This is something else entirely. This is obsession. Days bleed into each other, marked only by the changing quality of the light filtering through the boarded-up windows. Ethan never leaves me alone for long. He brings me food, bland soups and watery broth, and insists on helping me eat. He cleans my wounds with a meticulousness that is both unsettling and strangely comforting. He's fixed my leg, after a fashion. He reset the bone himself, using what he called old-fashioned methods. The pain is excruciating, a constant throbbing reminder of my captivity. My leg is now encased in a makeshift splint made of wood and bandages. The house is cold and damp, and I can feel the chill seeping into my bones. He calls this place a sanctuary. He says it's a haven from the world, a place where I can focus on my writing. He brings me paper and pens, urging me to write. "You need to write, Julie Ann," he says, his eyes pleading. Eve needs you. She needs you to finish her story. He's talking about the 7th book in the No Man for Me series. I've been struggling with it for months. Writer's block, a constant companion. Eve is stuck, still painfully shy and awkward, still searching for her first love. I'd been considering killing her off, ending the series altogether. Ethan would not like that. He talks about Eve as if she were a real person. He knows every detail of her life, every quirk of her personality. He quotes passages from my books, reciting them verbatim, his voice filled with reverence. Eve is special, he says, his eyes shining with fervor. She's pure, she's innocent, she deserves happiness. He also talks about the fans, the ones who don't understand Eve, the ones who criticize her, who want her to change. He speaks of them with contempt, his voice laced with anger. They don't understand her, he says, his hands clenching into fists. They want to corrupt her. They want to ruin her. I try to reason with him, to explain that Eve is just a character, a figment of my imagination. But he doesn't listen. He just shakes his head sadly, as if I'm the one who doesn't understand. You created her, Julianne, he says. You brought her to life. You have a responsibility to protect her. He wants me to write the 7th book, but not just any story. He wants a specific story, a story where Eve finally finds true love. He wants a story where Eve is happy. He presents me with a detailed outline, a meticulously crafted plot filled with romantic encounters and heartfelt confessions. It's disturbing. It's not the Eve I know, not the Eve I created. This is what she needs, he says, his eyes pleading. This is what she deserves. I refuse. I tell him I can't write it. I tell him it's not my story. He doesn't get angry. He doesn't threaten me. He just looks at me with a profound sadness, a deep disappointment that cuts me to the core. You're hurting her, Julianne, he says softly. You're hurting Eve. That night, I lie awake, my leg throbbing, my mind racing. I can't escape the feeling that I'm trapped in a nightmare of my own making. I created Eve, and now she's become my prison. The outline sits on the table beside my bed, a constant, silent accusation. Ethan checks on my progress several times a day. He asks about the story, about Eve, about her happiness. I try to write, but the words won't come. My mind is a blank slate, devoid of inspiration. I stare at the page, paralyzed by fear and anxiety. Ethan becomes increasingly agitated. He starts to lose sleep. His eyes are bloodshot, his hands tremble. He paces the room, muttering to himself. He tells me about his life, about his loneliness, about how Eve is the only thing that brings him joy. He tells me about his dreams, about how he imagines himself rescuing Eve from her awkwardness, from her shyness, from her virginity. The details are disturbing, unsettlingly graphic. I want to cover my ears, to shut him out, but I can't. I'm trapped, forced to listen to his twisted fantasies. One morning, he brings me a newspaper. It's open to a story about my disappearance. The police are searching for me. My family is distraught. He watches me as I read the article, his eyes filled with a strange mixture of pride and fear. They'll never find you here, he says, his voice hushed. This is our secret, Julianne. Just you and me, and Eve. He points to a paragraph in the article that mentions the upcoming release of the 7th No Man for Me book. They're waiting for her story, he says, his voice hardening. You can't disappoint them, Julianne. You can't disappoint Eve. He slams the newspaper on the table, his face contorted with anger. Write the story, he screams, his voice cracking. Write the story, or... He doesn't finish the sentence, but the threat hangs in the air, heavy and suffocating. That night, I make a decision. I have to escape. I have to get away from him. I start to hoard my medication, the painkillers Ethan gives me for my leg. I pretend to swallow them, but I hide them under my pillow. I know it's a long shot, but it's the only chance I have. I need to weaken him, to make him vulnerable. I need to find a way to escape this nightmare. The next day, I start writing. I pick up the outline and begin to type, slowly, deliberately, forcing the words to flow. Ethan watches me, his eyes filled with relief. He smiles, a genuine, heartfelt smile that makes me feel a pang of guilt. But the guilt is fleeting. I have to survive. I have to escape. I write the story he wants, the story where Eve finds true love. But I also write a different story, a hidden story, a story of my own. I write about my captivity, about my fear, about my determination to escape. I hide the truth beneath layers of romantic fluff, disguising it in the saccharine sweetness that Ethan craves. I'm weaving a web of deceit, a trap designed to ensnare my captor. The price of perfection, I realize, is often a lie. Days turn into weeks. I continue to write, slowly gaining Ethan's trust. He seems calmer, more relaxed. He praises my progress, showering me with compliments. He even starts to leave me alone for longer periods of time, trusting that I won't try to escape. He goes into town to buy supplies, to check his mail, I don't know. I use this time to explore the house. It's an old, dilapidated farmhouse filled with dust and cobwebs. The furniture is old and worn, covered in faded floral patterns. I find a phone in the attic, an old rotary phone, but the line is dead. I find a toolbox in the basement, filled with rusty tools. I consider using one as a weapon, but I quickly dismiss the idea. I'm too weak, too injured. I keep writing, weaving my secret story into the fabric of the false narrative. I'm careful, meticulous, hiding the truth in plain sight. One evening, Ethan comes back from town looking agitated. He's been drinking. They're talking about you, he slurs, his eyes bloodshot. They're saying you ran away. They're saying you abandoned Eve. He stumbles towards me, swaying on his feet. I recoil in fear. They don't understand, he mutters, his voice thick with emotion. They don't understand what you're doing for her. He grabs my arm, his grip tight. I wince in pain. You're making her happy, Julianne, he says, his voice pleading. You're giving her what she deserves. He releases my arm and stumbles back, collapsing into a chair. He stares at me, his eyes filled with a mixture of anger and despair. Don't leave her, Julianne, he whispers. Don't leave Eve. He passes out, his head lolling to the side. This is my chance. I reach under my pillow and pull out the pills I've been hoarding. I crush them into a fine powder and mix them into a glass of water. I approach Ethan cautiously, my heart pounding in my chest. I kneel beside him and gently lift his head. Ethan, I say softly, wake up. I have something for you. He stirs, his eyes fluttering open. He looks at me groggily, his expression confused. What is it? He mumbles. It's medicine, I say, forcing a smile. It will help you sleep. He hesitates for a moment, then takes the glass from my hand and drinks it down in one gulp. I watch him, my heart pounding in my chest. The pills should take effect soon. He closes his eyes and sighs contentedly. Thank you, Julianne, he whispers. You're a good friend. He drifts off to sleep, his breathing deep and regular. I wait for a few minutes, making sure he's completely unconscious. Then, I stand up, my legs trembling. I have to get out of here. I grab my laptop, the one Ethan brought me to write on. It contains both versions of the story, the lie and the truth. I hobble towards the door, leaning heavily on a makeshift crutch made from a broom handle. The door is locked, of course. I rummage through Ethan's pockets until I find the keys. I unlock the door and stumble out into the night. The air is cold and crisp, the sky filled with stars. The snow crunches beneath my feet as I make my way towards the road. I don't know where I'm going, but I know I have to get as far away from Ethan as possible. I keep walking, my leg throbbing, my body aching with exhaustion. I can feel the effects of the pills wearing off. I need to find help. As I walk, I realize something. Ethan was right about one thing. The fans are waiting for the story, and I can't disappoint them. And I can't disappoint Eve. I stumble along the deserted road for what feels like hours. Just as I think I can't take another step, I see headlights in the distance. A car is approaching, slowly, cautiously. I wave my arms frantically, shouting for help. The car slows down and stops. A man gets out, his face etched with concern. "Are you okay?" he asks, his voice filled with alarm. "What happened?" I collapse into his arms, sobbing with relief. "Help me," I gasp. "Please, help me." The man helps me into his car and drives me to the nearest hospital. I'm treated for my injuries, questioned by the police, reunited with my family. The nightmare is finally over, or so I thought. Weeks later, I'm back home, recovering from my ordeal. The police have arrested Ethan and charged him with kidnapping and assault. He's awaiting trial. I'm trying to put my life back together, to move on from the trauma. But I can't shake the feeling that I'm still being watched, that Ethan is still somehow controlling me. The 7th No Man for Me book is published. It's a huge success, exceeding all expectations. The fans love it. They praise my writing, marveling at the depth and complexity of the characters. They don't know the truth, the hidden story woven into the fabric of the narrative. They don't know that the love story they're reading is based on a twisted fantasy, a product of Ethan's obsession. One day, I receive a package in the mail. It's a copy of the 7th book, autographed by me. But the inscription is different. It's not my handwriting. It reads, "For Ethan, my true love." Eve. I stare at the inscription, my blood running cold. How could this be? I rush to my computer and open the file containing the 7th book. I scroll through the text, searching for something, anything, and then I see it. Hidden within the code of the document, invisible to the naked eye, is a hidden message. It's a confession. It's written in my style, in my voice, but it's not me. It's Eve. The message reveals the truth. Eve is not just a character. She's a part of me, a hidden aspect of my personality that has been dormant for years. Ethan didn't kidnap me. He awakened Eve. He unlocked something inside me, a darkness I never knew existed. Eve is real, and she's in love with Ethan. She orchestrated the entire kidnapping, manipulating Ethan, using him as a pawn in her twisted game. She wrote the inscription on the book, sending it to Ethan as a sign of her affection. She's still here, inside me, waiting. I look in the mirror, my reflection stares back at me, but it's not my eyes I see. It's Eve's eyes, cold and calculating. A smile spreads across my face, a slow, sinister smile that I don't recognize. "Thank you, Ethan," I whisper, my voice a perfect imitation of Eve's. "You set me free." Eve is in total control now, and she's not letting go.